Tonight, campaign battleground. Donald Trump rallies in North Carolina as controversy engulfs his hand-picked candidate for governor. As Harris's fundraising triples Trump's.
I'm Nicole Killian in Wilmington, North Carolina, where former President Trump makes another pitch to voters in this pivotal battleground. Will he consider another debate before the election?
Also tonight, missiles, rockets, and artillery shells fly over the Israel-Lebanon border.
I'm Chris Livesay in Tel Aviv, where tensions are boiling over a possible full-blown war with Hezbollah.
Plus, this California store's answer to retail theft.
I'm Elise Preston in Los Angeles, where one store is locking up nearly all its product as a surge in crime hits stores nationwide.
Powering up, why the AI boom is giving the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant new life. On this last day of summer, snow in the forecast. We'll tell you where. And later, taking the lid off Tupperware.
This is Tupperware.
Why the party was good until it was over.
Tupperware really locks it in.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York.
Good evening, I'm Nancy Chen. Tonight, former President Donald Trump is weighing in on the prospects of a second debate showdown with Vice President Kamala Harris. It happened as Trump rallied with supporters in the battleground state of North Carolina. 3 states have already started early voting in person as of this weekend, and 13 other states have begun sending out at least some mail-in ballots. That includes North Carolina. CBS's Nicole Killian is in Wilmington and leads us off tonight. Nicole?
Good evening, Nancy. Former President Donald Trump poured cold water on the prospects of another debate, saying it's too late in the process to hold one.
Former President Trump rallied in North Carolina, where he quickly refused to participate in a second presidential debate with Vice President Kamala Harris.
But now she wants to do a debate right before the election with CNN because she's losing badly. But it's like a fighter who goes into the ring and gets knocked out. The first thing he says is, I want a rematch.
It was the former president's 7th trip to the Tar Heel state and his first outdoor rally since another apparent assassination attempt at his Florida golf club almost a week ago. Law enforcement perched nearby as Trump hoisted his grandchildren behind bulletproof glass.
Make America great again.
During his roughly 1-hour speech, the former president made no mention of embattled Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who he has endorsed for governor. The GOP candidate allegedly called himself a black Nazi and reportedly made other inflammatory comments on a pornographic website more than a decade ago.
Do you think it hurts the former president's chances here in this state?
I don't think anything could hurt his chance right now because I think that there's been so many worse things that have happened to him. And
Mark Robinson is the right guy at the right time, and so is Donald Trump.
In Pennsylvania, Governor Tim Walz and the Harris campaign seized on the controversy.
We got folks running as Republicans for governor that are proud to refer themselves as Nazis.
With less than 2 months to go before the election, both candidates enter this final stretch with more cash. According to the Harris campaign and the Democratic National Committee, they pulled in approximately $257 million last month. That's nearly triple compared to what Trump raised, and the RNC at $85 million. Nancy?
Nicole Killian, thank you. Today, Israel said its fighter jets took aim at Hezbollah targets across southern Lebanon. The barrage follows a week of violence and exchange of fire, fueling fears of a rapidly escalating regional conflict. CBS's Chris Livesay has the latest.
Good evening. It's been a week of crippling blows for Hezbollah. First, it was the exploding pagers and walkie-talkies. Then, the killing of a top commander. Israel says it's shifting its military focus towards Hezbollah and away from Hamas. But Gaza remains deadly.
In Beirut,
First responders combed through the chaos to find survivors yesterday. The target, Hezbollah commander Ibrahim Akil, wanted by the U.S. for his role in 2 bombings in 1983 that killed more than 300 people at the U.S. Embassy in Beirut and the U.S. Marine Corps barracks. This morning, Hezbollah announced it was also mourning more than a dozen other militants killed in the blast. It's the latest in an escalation between Israel and Hezbollah, after exploding beepers and walkie-talkies killed dozens and injured thousands. An escalation we witnessed from Israel's northern border with Lebanon. So is that Iron Dome intercepting those rockets?
Yes.
All right, so those are rockets being intercepted by Israel. Rockets flying from just over there on the Lebanese side of the border from Hezbollah into Israel. It appears they're being intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome defenses. This is the village of Margaliot, population 450. But with Hezbollah territory just a few hundred yards away, Yoni Yacobi and his family are among the handful of residents left.
You can see nobody.
It's a ghost town.
Ghost town.
The rest have joined the almost 70,000 Israelis forced to flee the northern border. This week, the military made bringing them home an official aim of the war and hit back today, targeting southern Lebanon with waves of airstrikes and artillery. But Israel hasn't forgotten about Gaza. Today, the Hamas-run health ministry said at least 22 people died after a strike on a UN school, half of them children. A pregnant woman was reportedly among those killed. Israel said the school had been turned into a Hamas command center. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan called the killing of that top Hezbollah commander, quote, a good outcome, Nancy, noting Akil had American blood on his hands. But he called the escalation between Israel and Hezbollah worrying.
Chris Livesay, thank you. Now to another military front. Ukrainian forces taking aim overnight at a Russian weapons depot inside Russia. The massive explosion destroyed thousands of tons of ammunition, including some provided by North Korea. The drone attack comes as Ukrainian President Zelensky is due to meet with President Biden at the White House next week to present his victory plan. And tonight, President Biden is holding his final Indo-Pacific summit, meeting with the leaders of Australia, India, and Japan in Wilmington, Delaware. And he was recorded making some off-the-cuff comments about relations with China. CBS's Natalie Brand is there.
Nancy, President Biden making diplomacy personal by inviting the leaders of Australia, India, and Japan to his home here in Delaware for a summit at his former high school. This is an alliance that President Biden has elevated since taking office, as his administration has prioritized security in the Indo-Pacific, important to countering China's aggression and influence in the region. Now, while National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told reporters today that this partnership is not directed at one country in particular, the president, during comments caught by a hot mic, almost immediately began talking about China.
China continues to behave aggressively, testing us all across the region. And it's true in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, South Asia, and the Taiwan Straits. It's true across the scope of our relationship, including on economic and technology issues. At the same time, we believe intense competition requires intense diplomacy.
The president also heard saying that diplomacy and engagement with China is important for preventing conflict, something he stressed before. Nancy.
Natalie Brand, thank you. South Carolina executed inmate Freddie Owens last night, marking the state's first execution in 13 years. Protesters gathered at a fence outside the corrections facility. 46-year-old Owens was convicted in the 1997 killing of a convenience store clerk. Shoplifting is on the rise across the country, and more businesses are taking tougher measures to deter thieves. CBS's Elise Preston is in Los Angeles and reports at least one store is going to the extreme.
Nancy, the rippling impact of crime is changing how customers shop here. But this store is one of thousands across the country strained by a growing problem.
Locked up and off limits. Paper goods and potato chips now joining big ticket items behind plexiglass at this Los Angeles area Rite Aid.
And I was like, why is it locked up like that?
The Compton drugstore taking a dramatic step to combat shoplifting. Nearly everything in the store is restricted, so anyone looking to purchase items must call an employee to open up a case.
It's sad that things are this way now.
In a statement to CBS News, Rite Aid said they are testing a range of product protection solutions as they are seeing a higher level of brazen shoplifting.
The issue that is front and center in the consciousness of so many Californians.
The state's governor recently created an organized retail crime task force. So far this year, it's made over 1,000 arrests. California's campaign against shoplifters is just a snapshot of a struggle nationwide. 15 states have created task forces, and a bill in Congress is calling for the Department of Homeland Security to establish a centralized national effort. The growing problem cost businesses more than $122 billion in 2022, and a Forbes survey shows the majority of small businesses have been forced to raise prices. The crime's delivering a blow to consumers' pockets.
Retail theft is also to blame for stores changing their hours and what they carry in stock. Nancy, in the most extreme cases, about a third of the nation's major retailers have shut down stores because of theft.
Elise Preston, thank you. To the weather now. On this last day of summer, there's a real chill in the air, at least in parts of the West. Let's check in with meteorologist Andrew Kozak.
Yeah, hey, good evening, Nancy. The season's starting to change as it officially will tomorrow morning. We're looking at snow starting to come in for Colorado, west of Denver. Going to be particularly important to pay attention to the forecast if you're traveling along I-70. Winter weather advisory in effect with snowfall, especially above 8,000 to 9,000 feet. Likely 3 to 6 inches of snow, but the highest of high elevations could get between 6 and 8 inches of snow by midday on Sunday. So we're watching that, and a pretty powerful cold front slicing through the midsection of the country. This is going to give areas like St. Louis, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Texas a chance for severe weather. Meantime, some record heat possible in the southeast. Oh, and Sunday morning, we officially turn to fall at 8:43 a.m. Eastern Time. Nancy?
Andrew Kozak, thank you. And the arrival of autumn means the beer is flowing in Munich. Today is the official start of Oktoberfest. Some 6 million beer lovers are expected to visit the city for the festival, which runs until October 6. Proust. And straight ahead on the CBS Weekend News, why our demand for energy is prompting 3 Mile Island to start back up. Also, how volcanic eruptions are inspiring a new way to combat global warming. Plus, marking the biggest airborne operation of World War II. There's a new plan to power up a reactor at the site of this country's worst commercial nuclear disaster. A partial meltdown happened here in 1979 at Pennsylvania's 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. Here's CBS's Michael George.
It was the first step in a nuclear nightmare.
March 28, 1979. On the CBS Evening News, Walter Cronkite broke the news to the nation. There was a partial meltdown at the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant.
It's probably the worst nuclear reactor accident to date.
45 years later, it remains the worst commercial nuclear disaster in U.S. history, damaging the industry for decades. The remaining functional reactor at the site was last used 5 years ago. It shut down because it was losing money. Yesterday, the plant's current owner, Constellation Energy, announced it will spend $1.6 billion to restart that reactor. It's part of a 20-year deal to provide power to Microsoft data centers. Those centers power the company's growing artificial intelligence programs. Constellation says the plant meets the growing demand for clean, zero-carbon energy and will create thousands of jobs, saying in a statement, "This plant was among the safest and most reliable nuclear plants on the grid, and we look forward to bringing it back."
Nuclear power has a great safety record.
Nuclear energy expert Professor Anna Erickson says demand for energy is exploding, in part due to AI.
AI requires energy that is 24/7. And the nuclear power is one of the best sources to provide that consistent need for energy.
The reactor isn't expected to be online until 2028, and it first has to earn approval from the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
Nancy?
Michael George, thank you. And still ahead on the CBS Weekend News, the tiny California startup working to control the climate. The Earth just had its hottest summer on record, according to climate scientists. August, the hottest month. In tonight's Weekend Journal, CBS's Ann Makovic reports a small California startup is on a mission to reverse the warming, but it's risky.
High up in the hills near Silicon Valley, a controversial mission involving a weather balloon will soon take flight.
Go ahead and start it slowly.
What's getting pumped inside the expanding globe?
Turn it up a bit more, please.
Two gases, sulfur dioxide and helium.
3, 2, 1.
The helium will carry this balloon more than 12 miles above the surface of the Earth into the stratosphere. Once there, the balloon bursts, releasing the sulfur dioxide. The belief is that the gas turns into an aerosol, which will bounce the sunlight back into space, cooling the planet.
That gas reacts with other things to form clouds that reflect a little bit of sunlight back into space before it can warm Earth.
The strategy seeks to temporarily cool the planet as human activities continue to warm it.
Even if we magically can stop burning fossil fuels tomorrow and somehow have some other magical energy to replace it, there will still be warming.
Since 2022, Luke Eisman and Andrew Song from the startup Make Sunsets have launched more than 80 balloons. The concept behind the method is based on the planet-cooling effects of volcanic eruptions. A good example is the massive eruption of Mount Pinatubo in 1991. It injected 15 million tons of sulfur dioxide aerosols into the stratosphere, dropping temperatures around the world.
Pinatubo actually cooled the Earth by about 0.3 of a degree Celsius or half a degree Fahrenheit for several years.
Dr. William Collins is with Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory and a top expert on aerosols and climate change science.
So we know these aerosols can cool the climate. And the question that people are now asking is, could we do that artificially?
Larger entities around the world are also looking into using this technology.
We're opposed to deployment at this stage.
Lisa Dilling is an associate chief scientist with the Environmental Defense Fund. The nonprofit is financing scientific research into artificial cooling technologies. The goal is to identify and better understand any unknown risks or side effects.
We feel we need to understand a lot more about this before we can even know if it's even a viable technology.
The team is willing to share its data with scientists, but not willing to stop the launches.
We can't let concern about impacts be an excuse for inaction, or we end up with more intense versions of all of the problems that we already have.
Ann Makovic, CBS News, Santa Clara County, California.
Next on the CBS Weekend News, hundreds of parachutists mark one of World War II's most daring missions. Today in the Netherlands, hundreds of parachutists mark 80 years since Operation Market Garden, the biggest airborne operation of World War II. It was a daring but unsuccessful effort to seize strategic bridges and later immortalized in the 1977 movie A Bridge Too Far. Now to some prime real estate in California that's become an eyesore. Desperate neighbors in the Hollywood Hills of Los Angeles are demanding the city take action to clean up this, a graffiti-covered mansion. The property, valued at $6 million, has been vacant for more than 2 years, allowing trespassers and squatters to come and go. When we return, a colorful company confronts change. That's next. Finally tonight, for Tupperware, the party is over. The iconic brand, once a staple of American kitchens, filed this week for bankruptcy, citing what it called macroeconomic challenges.
To find out about Tupperware parties, look in the yellow pages under housewares or plastics.
Not anymore. Tupperware, the company that once symbolized innovation, is going the way of the phone book. For almost 8 decades, Tupperware has produced plastic containers of every size and color, the epitome of kitchen kitsch. Founded by Earl Tupper in 1942, his business model was revolutionary.
The one way to buy Tupperware is a fun way.
He offered women the opportunity to make their own money in their own homes by throwing a party for the neighbors to sell them Tupperware. At its height, the home-based sales force numbered more than 3 million. But to many, Tupperware is more than just plastic, holding not just leftovers, but memories. Durable, some of it has passed down through generations as heirlooms. And while Tupperware struggled to stay relevant in a food delivery world,
welcome to my very first Tupperware party.
The brand remained pop culture cool.
These are some of the finest plastic products on the household market.
So we still feeling pretty good about this 32-piece set here.
Now the brand risks passing into history, its lid sealed with a burp. But like a plastic time capsule, Tupperware will long preserve a piece of American history, the post-war era, suburbia, and kitchens 1950s style. Happy days indeed. Got to appreciate the good Tupperware. That's the CBS Weekend News for this Saturday. I'm Nancy Chen in New York. Good night.